Hello and welcome to the Fenland Chat Hour. I'm producer Dave and we're co-hosted by Amanda Carlin.
Hello, producer Dave.
Hello, how are you today?
Very good, thank you. Had a lovely weekend, did you?
I did, yes. We managed to get some bits and pieces done, so did some filing.
Oh, did you?
Well, there was lots of things that had been sort of mounting up, and it was a case of, we've kind of been putting it off for a long time, so it was a case of, right, what can we do when you isolate? So, the filing got done, so that was the highlight.
Well, it's out of the way now, that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll do for another couple of years, so.
Yeah.
Did you get your barbecue? You were talking about having a barbecue over the weekend?
Yes, we got time in the garden, so that was very nice. It was lovely weather.
It was fantastic. Yes, we got to sit outside in the sun. It was it was very nice. Got to feed the fish as well.
Oh, lovely.
Because the temperature wise, normally you can't feed the fish below a certain temperature, but because it's been so cold, it's never actually got warm enough to sort of look after the fish.
Yeah.
So now things are setting up, so I gave them a bit of a feed and they were all happy. They're looking a bit bloaty as well, so I think I wonder if they're looking a bit pregnant.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
And another batch of goldfish for this year.
Oh, fantastic.
And we did have some frogs, but we've not seen them for a while, so who knows?
I love a frog.
Okay, so we're going to start off with some news. Are you ready? Are you all fit and ready to go?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
So, bit of news this, something that's been talked about this morning. It's raised a head up this weekend, and that's the level of domestic abuse that's been reported and has risen by 25% increase in traffic on the websites and calls to abuse helplines. And obviously it's a frightening time when we're in lockdown and people are being in vulnerable positions, even more so than normal. So without going into too much detail, there's stuff on BBC and Sky News at the moment. If you want to listen to that, if you can. If not, the website is National Domestic Abuse Helpline.org.uk, and the telephone number is 0808 2000 247. That's 0808 2000 247, and give them a ring if you can. And also everything will be treated in strictest confidence.
David, also, it's possible to contact Cambridgeshire Constabulary online.
Yes, they did say to contact the police, or
Yes.
even if your neighbours contact the police on your behalf. It is a serious issue and everybody is taking it very seriously at the moment.
Yeah. Most important thing is for people to stay safe in all areas of life.
Yes, because obviously now we're in an issue where everyone's locked in for a long period of time. It's going to cause a lot of aggravation and raise a lot of issues that wouldn't have normally there, because people spend a lot of time apart. Most people spend more time at work than they do at home. That's just the fact. People. So when everyone's spending all the time together, then yes, it can cause a lot of hardship with families. So yes, just be mindful of everybody and look out for each other.
Yes.
So the next one I have is social distancing. It's something that became very apparent over the weekend that a lot of people are not following the guidelines that have been issued by the government regarding social distancing. There was a case. There was in Peterborough. There were photographs of just one particular bus stop, and there were hundreds of people all congregated around this bus terminal, and even if people wanted to social distance between them, there just wasn't the opportunity because there were just so many people there. And I obviously think a lot of it was down to Sunday service, so there are less buses, so more people are cramming onto buses, which doesn't help at all. So please follow the guidelines that have been issued by the government. And we'll come to the stats in a minute. It's just frightening at the moment. And there's other cases where fitness classes where people are just ignoring, and they're holding fitness classes together. They're going to gyms, or they're going to football enclosed football courts, and doing group activities there together. And this is stupid. This is just at what point are people going to wake up and realise people are dying? People get together and they die as a result of this virus. I even saw people outside, a group of 3 people stop to have a chat with each other, and they're saying no more than 2 people talking. And these people, yes, they were keeping distant, but the fact is, you're told quite strictly, don't go out unless you need to, don't meet up in groups of more than 2 people, and just don't try and interact with each other. There are, as I'll go into the details, but there are 5,000 people have died so far in just a few weeks, and it's going to go up, and we're probably looking at another 600-700 people again today, another 600-700 tomorrow. It's how many thousands of people have to die before people start getting the message.
Yeah, it's very frightening, isn't it?
And it shows that Boris has the virus. You've got Prince Charles. It doesn't matter who, money, status, location has nothing to do with this. This does not pick and choose who it's going to affect. Yes, it's affecting people with underlying conditions more, but there are now cases where young people who have no conditions and they are falling ill. So it really has no effect whatsoever. It is going to target people. And even if you don't get ill, you're passing it on to people who are more vulnerable.
Yeah.
So follow the government guidelines. Stay indoors. And following on from that, the government have said if people just don't follow the guidelines, they will then clamp down. They will shut down parks and recreation areas, and they will control. We've talked about police stopping cars, and again they were doing that over the weekend. They were stopping vehicles and finding out whether they were making necessary journeys. So, and at the moment it's cursory, but it will change, and they will get much stricter. So it's the onus is on people to follow the rules. So.
I've got a question, David.
Yes.
When you're out in your vehicle and you're doing an essential journey.
Yes.
So I'll just touch my face. Sorry. If you need to go and pick a young person up from their Saturday job, for example.
Yes.
Are they allowed to sit in the front seat with you? They're part of the household. I'm very confused over that rule, if you like.
If it's a family member, then if it's someone that you share the house with, then I don't see an issue with them being in the front seat. If it's someone who is not in the household and you have to because of there are no other means, there's no other transport, then I guess in the back seat.
Yeah, which makes sense, doesn't it?
Or just make sure that there is distance. So even if it is a member of the household, just sit in the opposite corner of the car, the vehicle. If you're in the driver's seat, then they sit in the opposite side to try and maintain distance as possible. But that just sort of leads on talking about cars. There are things where they're saying that make sure that you are decontaminating cars on the inside.
Yes.
Because you may have had the virus, you've gone ill, and you're no longer driving the car. You then feel better. You get back in the car, and you're then touching the steering wheel, or another member of the family has been out and about driving the vehicle as well. So make sure that you are wiping down the steering wheels and the dashboard, the radio and all gear stick and things, that the door handles as well before you even get in. You don't know who's been walking down the street and been touching the side of your car. So just a bit of common sense. Just just remember just to clean down surfaces that are likely to be or have been infected by someone or something. So we'll come back to the topic of cars later on.
Yes.
And talking of cleaning things, mobile phones. A lot of people aren't aware or haven't registered yet that the mobile phones are a big communicator or of transmitter of coronavirus, and not because of 5G, but because they're a surface. They're a really smooth glass surface, which is good for holding the germs.
Yes.
And the government or the sort of the medical advice is make sure that if you're out and about or you're constantly using your mobile phone, make sure that you are disinfecting it and make sure you're wiping it down. Follow the guidelines by the phone manufacturers, because every phone is different. Some are waterproof, some are water resistant, some are not. So make sure that you're using the right kind of towels and things. So if you look on the various websites, I'm guessing there's guidelines of which ones to use, but make sure that if you are using the phones, which everybody does, that the phones are being cleaned, especially if you've been out and about.
It's really horrible seeing the finger marks on your screen anyway, isn't it? So annoying.
Yeah, they're not nice. Although it seems to go through different generations of mobile phones. Some are better than others.
That's true.
So I think when they swap between glass and plastic and stuff, they some of them leave more residue, and you look at the screen and you go, ugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is something to be considering. Even like watches, smart watches and things, or just any kind of watch. It's within proximity to your hand. It's in proximity to you coughing and sneezing over. So yeah, that's something just to be aware of. If you're wearing jewellery, or if you're having, it's not even been mentioned. I've not heard anybody actually talk about that. But yeah, if you're coughing and sneezing over your hands, and you've got a watch, or you've got a bracelet or something around your wrist, that's something that also needs to be cleaned and looked after and kept clean as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I've only kept my wedding ring and a bangle on for that reason. I've removed everything else. I haven't removed this bangle since I was 18.
And it's never coming off.
It's not, no.
Is it a bangle, or is it an entry to the Glastonbury?
It's a bangle.
A Glastonbury festival.
Yeah.
I've never cut it off.
Yeah, well, my mum gave it to me. You get those sentimental things you just can't remove, can you?
No, I never had any of those.
Oh.
No, I think for me it's probably more film related.
Oh, I've got that. Yes, I can understand that.
That's all the news from me. Any other news updates?
No.
Okay. The rest of the stuff we'll just leave for later on.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go on to just the daily stats. These are the figures that were issued by the Department of Health and yesterday. We're just waiting for today's figures, which haven't come in yet. But we're looking at 47,806 confirmed cases and 4,934 confirmed deaths as of, I think it's 9 o'clock yesterday. So we're just waiting. Waiting for the latest updates, which are probably going to carry on being large for quite some time.
It's really horrible, isn't it?
It is. That's a thing. It's the time that it takes to go from being infected to those who are sadly dying is obviously taking a couple of weeks. So and that's something to be aware of. You're talking about isolating and stopping moving, stopping contact, but then you have to let that process of the cycle of how people react to the virus, and it's quite frightening how long it takes. So that's something, even though we're locking down now, it's going to take that length of time to let the process go through, so that everybody who has had it has gone through the whole process, and they've gone through the 2 weeks isolation completely before we get some kind of more positive figures coming through.
Yeah.
So I think we're not going to get anything by Easter. I think some people are very optimistic if they're thinking it's going to be all over by Easter.
No, it's going to be longer than we think, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the truth of it. I just hope there's not too much devastation in everybody's life. As a result of it.
I mean, it wasn't something I was going to talk about, but just something that is something that is coming, or could potentially become an issue, is a lot of underlying issues that come to light as a result of people being isolated. And it's not just the isolation itself, but people are suffering from loss if family members have died from coronavirus, and a lot of people aren't being able to say goodbye to the loved ones because they're restricting the number of people who are actually going to the funerals. So you have family members who are not able to say goodbye, and that can resolve itself into a lot of issues that will recur later on. So when this finishes and people go back to work, there's going to be a lot of compassionate leave, and a lot of compassion that needs to be given to people, family members and co-workers, when they go back to work, because they're suddenly going to go back into an environment where just that itself is also another issue. So they're going back into work and having to deal with lots of people, and people are going to be coming out of solitude and quiet, and they're going back out, and suddenly the world is going to be a noisy place. They're going out into large places where there's lots of crowds, and you're probably going to find people who suddenly become agoraphobic, or just can't cope with just the sheer amount of noise and disruption, and if people asking, on a Monday morning when everyone comes to work and everyone talks to each other and goes, "Oh, how was your weekend? How were you?" And "Oh, are you okay? If you've been away for a few days," and everyone sort of bombards each other with talking and chatter, and I think that's going to be even more compounded when everybody goes back to work, because a lot of these people will have not seen each other for weeks and weeks, and then suddenly everyone's talking and bombarding, and a lot of these issues are going to be, yes, we have lost lots of members of our family, or we have lost friends who have lost members of their family, and it's going to be it's going to have a huge social impact on people and their well-being, and
yes, it will. The good thing about it, though, is that we have the knowledge today to understand, or we have the capacity to understand mental health issues.
Yeah.
People aren't always sympathetic towards them, but we do understand it.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the Great War, for example, people didn't understand it.
That's right.
And there were terrible situations, weren't there?
Yeah, there were a lot of PTSD and other emotional trauma that people just couldn't understand because they'd never experienced it before.
Yeah. We're ahead in that respect. I hope that people are able to slow down just for a minute and use this time to find some peace in their lives. I hope that's what happens. Some people can't. It'd just be good.
Yeah, I
just
hope so.
to slow down.
Yeah, just gradually come back into the world when everything sort of gets opened up again, and don't just all rush out and just clamour and go headlong back into work and to business and meeting people, because people will need time.
Yeah.
You know.
I've got no desire to, personally.
Yeah.
But there are people that I'm really missing. And that hurts. And, you know, hearing them on the phone or seeing them, I just think, oh, it'd be so nice just to give you a hug, and you can't do it. And I feel that when that moment comes, when we can, you know, do that again, it's going to be very emotional.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it will be. So, yeah, I mean, just any business owners out there, just take that into consideration. You know, you're going to have a lot of damaged staff.
Yeah.
And that's if the staff actually want to work for you. I mean, that's some of the companies, the big ones that have really treated their staff badly. You know, and they're going to suffer because people are going to remember, and they're not going to want to work for you. You know, it's. I think we're going to see quite a few big businesses go under because of the way that they've been treated by the management. But
yes.
But that aside, when we go back, management have to put something in place for the well-being of the people and how they come back. They just can't expect everyone to turn back up on the Monday morning and start working at 100%, because it ain't going to happen.
No.
They're going to have to just go through a process of bringing people back up to speed slowly. So, that's a lot to take on board. That
it is food for thought.
Yeah,
isn't it?
But like you say, we're all in the same boat together. So hopefully we can all get through this together at the same time.
Absolutely, David. Yes.
So someone else who's been a bit poorly is Doris.
Yes, bless her. But she is on the mend.
Good, that's good to hear.
And she was pleased to receive well wishes.
Yes, I saw quite a few people leave messages on the Facebook asking how she was.
Yes, she was overwhelmed with it.
Well, it's good to know that people are looking out for her as well.
Yes.
So have you got anything from Doris, or do you got any sort of questions for her?
We've got 2 questions today for Doris. One is, how do I stay inside?
Mm-hmm.
And Doris says, well, she would like to go out, but she's not. And she's staying inside for the good of everybody around her.
Yeah.
So she asks if people would pay her the same courtesy, please, and stay inside.
That's good advice.
And also, that was from Karina, and Trev has asked, how does he stay out of Facebook jail? So Doris thinks that perhaps Trev spends too much time on social media, and that he should spend some time away from it, walking and what have you. Well, he did do that at the weekend. He went for very long walks, and he took some lovely photos, and he posted them on Facebook. But that's fine, because they were really, really lovely. And she also says, Trev, here's a tip: don't post anything you wouldn't send to Doris.
Exactly. Mind you, Doris is quite broad-minded from what I've heard.
Yes.
Yes, that's it. Don't put anything that your granny would be embarrassed about.
Yes.
But yes, that is an interesting point about people are spending a lot of time on social media. And I don't know if you had the issues yesterday, but Facebook and Twitter went down for about an hour or so.
It was brilliant.
But yeah, you can imagine there'll be social riots because Facebook is down and all social media is down and people can't talk to each other. And it is that, we are now so heavily reliant on social media because we've got nothing else. So yeah, we kind of need to start looking for other things to do to break the habit of sitting there on the phone or on whatever device.
Yes, absolutely. Well, David, the problem we encountered as a family, we had set a time to call and speak to family in Bristol, and obviously we couldn't achieve that, so we missed that slot. We're going to have to. It's very difficult sometimes to coordinate, even though people are in lockdown and quarantined and at home. If you've got a toddler, you've got to time it right, haven't you?
Even at home, you still have your own schedules and.
So Good Friday is the next time we'll be able to make a call. But it was fine, we accepted it, went out into the garden, and there was some musical bingo being played on the estate opposite us, and we could, dance away to the music. It was really good.
That's good.
That's the thing, isn't it? Not to get angry if you can help over situations. It's beyond our control, and I think this is the problem that a lot of us are experiencing right now. Everything is beyond our control.
Yeah, and I think everything is exacerbated, multiplied by so many times because when you hear music outside, it sounds louder because there's nothing else to deaden it. So someone talking loud, in a neighbour's garden or and that can lead to sort of anxiety as well, because normally it wouldn't be an issue because, like I say, there are street noises and other things going on, so the general level of noise has dropped, so individual things become more pronounced.
Yes.
So that's another thing, to sort of be aware of your level of volumes to other people. we can but try, but we know it's not going to. But and then just tolerance.
You're talking to the wrong person on that one.
I know. It's a difficult one. It's a fine balance between what people do to enjoy themselves, but not upsetting other people, and it's just a fine line. But I mean, have virtual parties, sort of stick in your gardens and just talk to the neighbours, keep your distance, but talk to people over the fence and say hello. Ask them how they are.
It's lovely to do that. Yeah, it is lovely to do that.
So anything else for Doris?
No, that's the advice that she's given today, and she's going to take it easy, and hopefully she'll be able to put a bin out safely on Tuesday evening. That's
good. And what colour is it this week?
I don't know. She hasn't told me yet.
Okay, so we will wait for Doris to give us an update on the bin colours.
I think it might be green, but I'm not sure.
It might be blue.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
Well, it depends if we're all got the same colour bins.
Yes. I do think we do. It's just different days, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it might be the recycling bins this week.
That would make sense, yes, because my recycling bin is almost full, yes.
Yeah, so if you are in Wimbledon, make sure you keep a track and listen out to Doris and find out what bin she's telling people to put out.
Yes. Oh, actually,
Ooh.
David.
Yes.
I have just had something in from Doris.
Oh.
Now, this is interesting.
Hot press.
Doris,
Hot off of the press from Doris.
Hot off the press, yes. Doris is saying, children and young people, could you please make Easter cards for your older neighbours and vulnerable neighbours that aren't known to you and pop them through the letterboxes, because they would like that. That would be a nice thing to do.
That would be a brilliant idea.
Yes.
And it
Thank
gives
you,
the
Doris.
kids... It gives the kids something else to draw as well.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
Although even adults, don't be afraid. There are lots of colouring and artwork that adults can do as well. So it's not all for the kids.
No, they're very popular actually, colouring books, aren't they?
They are, yes.
The mandala ones.
And
very nice.
And talking of that artwork, if you want to find out about art and starting art, if you want to start doing drawing or painting, then go back to the second episode where we had an interview with one of our local artists, Richard Savage, who runs Savage Studios in Chatteris. So he was offering some advice and tips of how to start and what to buy and equipment. So if you haven't heard that episode, go back and have a listen.
Yes, very good advice.
It is. Because it's always good to plug previous shows. We haven't got an interview today, but we have an interview we're looking at recording tomorrow. We've got half of it so far. So hopefully we'll have either an interview on Wednesday or Friday, depending on when I've got round to finish editing it. Depends on how much work it takes.
Well, you do work hard at doing this, David. Thank you.
It is. Well, just so that people know, I mean, this is almost a full-time job.
Yeah.
Just, even though it's 3 hours of video and audio a week, just if people are interested, we start recording at midday, so 12 o'clock. So we do the show. It takes about an hour, just over an hour to record. Then take all the files, edit them together, and that can take a little while to make sure that it's all done. We get rid of all the swearing and non-legal stuff or anything that could get us into trouble or anything like that.
That's the whole show.
Exactly. So we basically just cut out all the bad bits and we just leave a show with all the good bits. But seriously, that can take a while. That can take a couple of hours, and then uploading it seems to be taking longer at the moment to upload files, and I don't know if that's just an issue with traffic on Facebook and YouTube. So, and that will basically take to about 10 o'clock at night once everything's all done. And
yeah.
But then you have all the prep. Like this morning, I was going through all the TV channels, the news channels, and looking online, and that can take a couple hours as well. So we're looking at 12 hours from start to finish on, say, today, for today's show. And then to do the interviews, then that takes a couple of hours as well. So, it is literally a full-time job.
It is a full-time job. Time-consuming,
It
but
is.
ever so interesting.
Right, now to our section, which we've now changed to Life with Lockdown. I thought it was a more appropriate title than what we would call it before, because I think that was a bit sending the wrong kind of message. So this is just sort of our more sort of off the wall, more sort of general look at the offbeat things that are happening in the world. But the main thing yesterday was the Queen's speech. Did you listen to it?
I did. I found it very emotional.
She was very strong, and as the comments would make this morning, it was definitely a sort of, it wasn't a call to action, we must fight them, like some of the ones that she has given before. Not that she's given many, but it was very much a let's all just come together, and it's all calm and controlled, and just and we had the sort of references back to Vera Lynn, we'll meet again reference at the end, and
she's an incredible woman. I mean, if you look at her age, she's dignified in every way, every sense. She is strong. She's just amazing. She's absolutely amazing. The things that she's gone through.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are so blessed in this country to have a monarch like the Queen. We really are.
Yeah, I mean, she's so passionate about the NHS and supporting the NHS because she herself was an ambulance driver during the Second World War, so she has first-hand experience of what it's like to be a nurse and also to have served as well.
Yes, yes.
And people forget that as well.
I don't, but it might be because my grandmother was a Queen Alexandra nurse. So I've and I, like you, David, I've got a military background as well.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the military myself, but my family were. And I just find her amazing. I really do.
I think people forget how old she is because she is so hardworking and she does so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you watch her, you don't see a 94-year-old lady at all, do you? I mean...
No, she's still giving sort of like in late 70s.
Yes. Yes. I tell you one thing I did notice though, David. Well, two things actually.
Mm-hmm.
The first was...
Yeah.
I love the Queen.
Yeah.
But she had beautifully coiffed hair, didn't she? I have to say.
So you saying that she had a hairstylist come in and do her hair?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
You're saying that she didn't do it herself?
I do hope there was some physical distancing going on there. But yes, that was for sure. And also, I adored her brooch.
Yes, it was very, very colour orientated, wasn't it? Matched the dress.
Wasn't it? Yes.
It was a nice green brooch. Yes, I'd noticed that.
Very beautiful. Well, you see, it's your artistic sense coming out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it complemented.
Yes, it did. Well, I noticed it because it was turquoise, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my birthstone.
Ah, okay.
Mm. And I thought, my goodness, that's a nice piece of turquoise.
Might be a bit more expensive than I think you would. The sort of size you'd be after, eh?
Oh yes.
You wouldn't find that on eBay.
Oh no, you might find an interesting replica.
Yeah, well, these things tend to sort of lead into sales of whatever the royal family have sort of not endorsed, but just sort of have worn, and then people like to go out and buy. They
do, don't they? Diana's engagement ring.
Yeah, the dresses, rings, hats, Archie's hat.
Oh yes,
that sold out within seconds, I think.
Yes,
they couldn't produce enough of them. So it's funny what people enjoy buying that have been shown in some way with the royal family.
Yeah, it is, and they are style icons, aren't they? Really,
they are. Yes, we wouldn't think it, but yes, they are.
Well, the younger ones.
Certainly they do know how to do it.
Yes.
Right, the next issue, which is a bit of a turnaround, is we're going to look at false news. Or just briefly look at false news. Something that came up over the weekend is a lot of coverage of people talking about 5G telephone networks and saying that that's causing coronavirus. And this is just bizarre. It's where this came from. Someone has gone, oh look, 5G's just been launched, and oh look, we've just got coronavirus, therefore it must be connected. I mean, seriously guys, come on. There's for a fact that 5G is only in half a dozen countries at the moment, and coronavirus is in 206 territories around the world.
Yeah.
There's a complete mismatch here between, you've got islands in the Pacific who have coronavirus. They're lucky if they've probably got 4G. Even if they've got a telephone or a mobile system at all. So can you explain why these people have suddenly got coronavirus when there's no mobile phone systems anywhere nearby? So that kind of blows that argument out. So
I think if you look at the reasons behind these statements, that I don't really want to look at it too deeply, to be honest, because it seems really unpleasant to me.
And it's just are people enjoying making up these stories just to get a reaction, and then you've got people who should know better who are jumping on it and spreading it as well. So just double check your facts. And don't just automatically share and copy and paste stuff just because you think it's either funny or that you may think is true. Unless you actually have a scientific background, then you are not an expert. And you cannot definitely say whether something is or isn't caused by something else. Leave that to the experts, the scientists, the medics, the people who have a specialist in that kind of field. Don't try, a celebrity who's been on TV a few times, who's got their own social network, has no more knowledge about what's going on unless they've actually done engineering or science.
That's the thing, isn't it, David? I mean, there's lots of conspiracy theories out there, and I would be fibbing if I didn't say I've had all sorts of things go through my head, but that's where it stays, because microbiologists by now would have found out if the virus had been manipulated in any way. It's been out there long enough for them to find out.
Well, that's it. The RNA, is it the RNA? The actual breakdown, the genetics have actually been broken down and distributed to all the research labs around the world. So every country is analysing the makeup of these viruses so that they can make cures. Surely they would notice if there was something in there that would say that it has been manufactured or altered or...
It would take somebody incredibly clever to hide it that well, with that many people looking at it. And we're looking at the world's best scientists, aren't we?
Yeah.
That have got this work to do. So,
but when this is causing people to cause criminal damage and destroying and burning and damaging things, this is stupid now.
Yes.
There's no need for it.
It's thoroughly unpleasant, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's just causing more scare and panic for people, that going back to the anxiety and issues that people have already, this is not helping. This is not going to help people get through this. So.
No, it's not. But, if you see something and it's come from what you think is a credible source, you can see how people have started to believe the rhetoric, and it's not very nice at all, is it? You have got to go to credible sources and stop looking at these sites and just go to the news, go to BBC.
Yeah.
It's all doom and gloom, but it's going to be more truthful, or as truthful as the presenters know it at that moment in time.
Yeah. And the information does change, but and it does change, and there are lots of stories out there, and it's a case of you've got to use common sense here. So just don't spread fake news, because it doesn't help anyone. Just don't spread it.
No.
And don't buy chemicals as well, and there are lots of emails coming out saying, follow this link to this company and we will give you a vaccine that will cure coronavirus. And I've seen it. I've seen lots of them that are offering certain chemicals that will either help the fight against COVID-19.
Really?
Yeah.
Blimey.
And
I've
when
not
you actually
seen any of those.
and when you actually go and look at it, you actually find out that it's saying it may help towards fighting off viruses, but no clinical trials have been done. These are
That's really dangerous.
These are all things that have been done in laboratories and only in test tubes and in animals that they've done these tests, and they have had some success. But then you've got these emails, and I've seen the email, and it's saying use this stuff because it will help fight viruses, and so you've got to be so careful about, there are people out there trying to rip you off every opportunity.
That's terrible.
Yeah. On to better news, because it went a bit dark. It was just a case of we're just trying to highlight things, and suddenly it went a bit doom and gloom. So we'll try and you mentioned about the music quiz, so we'll skip over that one. But you've got some stuff about plant sales and other fires.
Yes. Chapel Cottage Plants in Hook in Wimbledon. They are wholesalers of beautiful plants, and unfortunately they have got a glut of plants right now because the garden centres aren't able to sell the way they usually do in the more traditional ways.
And that's something that we talked about last episode as well, isn't it?
It is. Yes, it is. Well, what Chapel Cottage Plants decided to do was really lovely. They had, and this was in Wimbledon, they had a household who lent their driveway and had loads of plants put out, and people were buying them over the weekend and making donations, and the donations are going towards the NHS. So that's a wonderful thing to do. They've raised loads of money. You wouldn't have thought it. Yeah,
that is brilliant.
So that's very good news. We have, sadly, there is some bad news or sad news.
Yeah.
And that's the fires over the weekend.
Yeah, there was a couple of them.
East Cambridgeshire.
Yeah.
Yes. So Littleport one day and Meeple the following day. So the fire brigade have been very busy. I mean, again, this is a situation because they're so close to each other. All sorts of theories could come out of that, couldn't they?
Yeah.
So we have to wait and find out what the police say, what the fire brigade say. But hopefully, and the most important thing is that nobody was hurt.
It is, yeah, and it's, that's one thing we do try and do is wherever possible we do try and fact check anything that we do say on the show, so we're not going to rush out and start making speculations. It may be a case of that there were two cases where accidents did happen, but like I say, we have to wait for the fire incident report on each of those before we can start making statements as to what actually caused them, whether there was a common thread or whether there are two just random incidences that happened.
Yes, now is the time not to be taking 2 and 2 and coming up with 50.
Exactly, yes. So we want to make sure we have a professional approach to this and do it properly.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I have some good news though.
Oh, good. What have you got?
News. Well, the good news is it's coming up to Good Friday.
It is,
so,
yes.
I love hot cross buns. I don't know about you, David.
I do. I love hot cross buns.
I adore them. But we've got a shortage of yeast in the shops at the moment. So I've been looking at recipes.
Did you say yeet or yeast?
I did say yeast. Did it sound like yeet? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just getting the word yeet in for all the young people.
Oh, right.
Because that's down with the kids, apparently.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know youth speak. I'm really behind the times. No, this isn't good. Yes, so yeast, not yeet.
That's when you throw the hot cross buns.
No, they're too good to throw.
Exactly.
Yes, Fenland seasonal recipes. They're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and they've got a sourdough recipe for hot cross buns, and they're really great.
Ooh, good.
Once they come out of the oven, they only they take less, about 35 minutes to prepare and to cook. Not very long at all.
Well, that sounds good. At least it gives people an alternative now that if there is a shortage of yeast, if they're planning to make their own.
Yes.
But I'm sure that there are hot cross buns readily available in most supermarkets.
That's true. There are loads of them. And there's gluten-free ones as well for people that don't like gluten. Sainsbury's do a good gluten-free one. But the thing is, people are starting to bake their own quite a bit now.
And I think that's had an impact on sale of yeast, because people are increasingly making their own products, their own breads
absolutely.
and stuff.
And eggs.
And eggs as well, yeah.
Yes.
So good for some businesses.
Yeah.
So if you're in the egg and yeast business, then you're laughing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got some lovely eggs from Skylark actually at the weekend. Oh, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, they are good. They do a good fry up. They do a good full English breakfast there.
They do, don't they?
Not that we're being endorsed or anything like that. We're not. We're not. That's the thing. If anybody wanted to sponsor the podcast, we wouldn't have any qualms whatsoever, because we don't get paid for any of this. We just. That's something that we should actually highlight, that this is all done completely voluntary. We don't get paid anything for this. So, like we were saying, that this is a full-time job almost.
Yeah.
You know, this is all stuff that we do in our own time. We all contribute our time for this. So if you have a business, or if you want to promote your business, or if you are an individual and you want to support and sponsor this podcast, we're not going to say no. So yeah, you're more than welcome. You've got some FDC stuff.
I have. Well, actually, Cambridgeshire County Council.
Oh, Cambridgeshire
rather
County
than
Council.
FDC.
Yeah.
Yes. So the County Council are putting lots of learning resources together for parents homeschooling, and they can find those details at www.camslearningtogether.co.uk.
Okay.
And the County Council is also starting daily challenges for the Easter period, featuring Buddy the Bunny.
Yay!
I think that's really great. Yay!
He should have his own show.
He should, shouldn't he? So there's something every day, a challenge every day for children, and that's on Cambridgeshire County Council's website and social media pages. This is something actually that Doris came up with.
Yeah.
Doris is saying, why not have an Easter bonnet making competition with your household? See who can make the best Easter bonnet.
And who looks the best.
Yes, who looks the best. And if you do a really good bonnet, give it to me, please, to hide my hair.
I can see a lot of people wearing headscarves soon.
Yes, I can. It's actually, David, it's really good being able to wear the headphones, because you can kind of manoeuvre your hair around them. Anyway, in addition, when you're going out on your family strolls together, if you don't have a garden, see how many plants, trees and birds you can identify. If you've got a garden, then do that in the garden. The ones that you don't know, why not look up what they are? Take a photo if you can. Look up what they are, because you're learning all the time then. And if you want, do drawings from the photos that you've got.
There is something that used to be really big in the 80s, or certainly when I was a kid and growing up. There was a series of books called I Spy.
Yes.
They were tiny little books. A6 sort of size, and you would have it would be on a topic, different topics. So you'd have a book of trees, I Spy book of trees, and I Spy book of cars, I Spy book of towns, and in it you would have a picture, and you would get points if you got if you saw whatever the item was. So you would tick it, and you would get points. So you'd go through and you'd tick all these things like pub signs. Different types of cars, different types of, so you have trees and flowers and things. Now, I believe they're still about.
I think they might have been published by Penguin, were they?
I can't honestly remember who published them, but I've got a funny feeling. I looked for something recently, and I saw these. They're still out there.
Amazing.
So if you want something to do, either get hold of an old one, because a tree is still a tree.
Yeah.
You might be able to find them on eBay, or they might be online now. They might do it as an app, but I'm sure we might be able to find a link if there is something. But if you want to do these activities with your kids and stuff, then this is definitely one. It's a pre-packed form of entertainment.
Yes.
And then you can go around the town and tick off all these things that you've seen.
Sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Oh, it was. It was a good way of keeping entertained on long car journeys.
Yeah, I do seem to remember doing those on car journeys too. I remember Mum saying, "I spy." I think it's just that's a memory. That's nice.
I might actually still have a copy kicking around. I'll show one out for the next episode if people want to, if they're interested.
Are we there yet, David?
Oh yes. No, keep down in the back. Yeah. So there's lots of activities and things online you can do with kids. What we got next? Oh yes. Now the next one is a bit of a bizarre story. It's something that's coming out on the news this morning. The Bronx Zoo in America. I think it's New York. Is it Bronx in New York?
Yes.
They've had 6 cases confirmed of tigers having caught the coronavirus. Now, we talked about fake news and not spreading fake news and stuff, but this is actually coming from the BBC. This is an actual case where the virus has actually crossed from the handlers to the tigers. And as a result, my cat has now gone into social isolation and is now wearing a face mask. But yes, that is interesting. We'll follow that and see where that leads. If we get any more information on that.
You know what cats are like? They'll have all the humans out of the house soon.
Exactly. Yes, we'll be barred.
Yeah, but poor tigers.
Yeah, that's not good news for them.
That's horrible.
I think it'll be a case of people will be watching to see how they react to it as well.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know. I do hope they get better. They're lovely animals.
They are. Yeah, we've got some good ones at Hamerton Zoo. They've got some amazing tigers there.
Won't it be wonderful to be able to go back to the zoos again? That will be good.
Now, something that we mentioned earlier in the show, we were talking about cleaning your cars and keeping things hygienic. Something that happened over the weekend was I saw people cleaning cars, washing cars down on the street, and this sort of got me sort of interested in what the actual policy was. Now, I did some digging on the internet, and I can't find anything that says you can or you can't wash cars. Now, we talked about cleaning cars, and that's come from places like Auto Trader and various other car-based websites that talk about keeping the inside cleanliness of the vehicles, because that is important, because people use that. But the outside of the car is not essential. It's a difficult one, and it's a bit of a grey area. Now, I suppose if you could clean your car in your garden, then you are removing it from connection with or crossing paths with other people. But when you've got it on the street and you're on the path and other people are coming past and walking past, is that a conflict of isolation orders? So we've got a poll out on Twitter, on DMJ Imagery on Twitter account, or hashtag Fen Chat Hour. That's Fen Chat Hour, not Fenland, but Fen Chat Hour for the hashtag, and you can find it there. The poll's up for another 3 days, so if you want to have a vote, stick your yes or no vote on there. We've got quite a few votes on there already, and it seems to be quite level pegging at the moment. So it's, but yeah, if you have any thoughts on what you think should be the policy for washing cars, let us know. And then we have the competition from last week. Now, last week, not the last episode from last week, from Friday, we had the name the TV character or film character that was on display somewhere on the screen. Now, last week, the character was this little guy here, and it's a clanger. So we had one correct answer. So congratulations. And it was someone in Wimbledon as well, so they're obviously big cult fans.
Yes, Wimbledon love the Fenland Chat Hour.
Yeah. So that's good. We had one. So we've got this week. We've got another character from either a TV or film show. So if you see it and you can identify it, let us know on Twitter or on Facebook. Hopefully, some good news is that we've got. Well, we've submitted this podcast to iTunes. Did you know that?
Well, no, not until earlier on.
Well, I thought we'd give it a try.
Yes, I think that's very good.
So I thought the idea of actually putting this out globally, so spread the Fenland word to the world. So we've put it out. We've put it through submission onto iTunes. And we'll see if that gets accepted. I don't know how long that process takes. I don't know if anybody out there has tried or done this before. Let us know how long it takes. But we'll let you know whether it does by the next one, or you'll see it if you type in Fenland Chat Hour into the search engine.
Well, that is very exciting.
It is. We're taking the show globally. That's the thing.
Yeah. Just as my hair's looking terrible.
and hopefully we'll have a video camera in your half of the show.
I've got my camera, but I'm still working out how to use it. But I'm learning so much doing this, David. It's amazing.
It's quite a baptism of fire, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, well, I think we're coming to the end of our show. We've talked long enough. We've had certainly plenty to talk about today.
We have. We should mention our Prime Minister in hospital overnight.
Yes.
And wish him well. And anybody else that's suffering from coronavirus at the moment, where they don't seem to be recovering, send thoughts and prayers to them all.
I think that's all for us today. Stay safe, stay strong, stay inside, look after yourself. Thank you, Amanda, for joining us today as usual.
Thank you, David, for having me.
And we'll talk again on Wednesday. Wednesday is the next show, and that's it from the Fenland Chat Hour. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Bye bye.